Alrighty, folks, so I took it upon myself to watch Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and I have a review. This video is sponsored by our friends at PDS Tech. Just gonna give you the hot take right out front. I like Tom Cruise in nearly everything. I think Tom Cruise is our last true movie star. He goes above and beyond the Call of Duty, he does his own stunts, he makes things better than they otherwise have to be. The best example, obviously, being Top Gun Maverick, which is one of the best movies of the past 10 years, largely because Cruise is terrific in it. Why don't we begin with the setup? So, there's a thing called the Entity. It is an AI that has gone wild and is going to destroy all of Earth by essentially hijacking all the nuclear weapons on Earth and then firing them off at one another, but preserving itself in a nuclear bunker so that I guess it lives by itself for the future or something. It's never really explained why this is the goal of the Entity, but apparently the Entity just kind of like hates humans. It's also not really explained why it would need to hijack all of the world's nuclear weapons as opposed to just some of the world's nuclear weapons in order to create a massive nuclear conflagration. Because if it, for example, hijacked Pakistan's nuclear weapons and then fired those nuclear weapons at, say, India, then that would lead to global nuclear war. I mean, that's just what would happen. For an AI, it's not particularly intelligent, is what I will say. It has unique capacity to see into literally everything, and yet is actually quite bad at foreseeing things that Tom Cruise is going to do in this movie. The setup of this movie follows on the last Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning is a better movie because number one, it has Rebecca Ferguson, who is in fact a terrific actress and an interesting character who's been in prior iterations of Mission Impossible and is much more interesting than Haley Atwell, who honestly just is nothing. She's a big nothing burger, Haley Atwell. In the last movie, in Dead Reckoning, she's a pickpocket who is kind of charmless and kind of a buffoon. And in this movie, she also is kind of useless. She's there to just say obvious things to the camera. She's supposed to be his love interest. It's really interesting how different actresses play different ages. So Rebecca Ferguson is 41, I guess, at this point, but she can play 50. Haley Atwell is 43.
Wow.
But she plays 28. And so she plays way younger than Tom Cruise. Maybe it's how the character is written. So if she's supposed to be the love interest, Grace, to Ethan Hunt, it doesn't really work in any way, shape, or form. This movie begins with Gabriel, who is the bad guy, played by S.I. Morales. In the last movie, Gabriel was up against Tom Cruise to somehow gain access to a key that was going to allow them to go down to a submarine that is now buried down in the depths that has basically the thing that's going to kill the AI. Well, he loses control of the key to Tom Cruise. So Gabriel's goal is to still get down to the magic MacGuffin and take control of the AI. And this apparently requires two separate components. Okay, so the key unlocks the thing that's on the submarine. And then there is the poison pill. The poison pill is a virus that is designed by Luther, played by Ving Rhames, in order to be linked up with the thing that's down in the submarine, and those two things together are going to allow for the infection of the AI. If you can follow that, it's pretty convoluted, but okay, there we are. Luther, for no apparent reason, is not assassinated, but linked to a bomb so he can have some dramatic final speeches before he dies attempting to dismantle the bomb. His death is maybe the only effective thing in the movie, just kind of emotionally. Everything else doesn't really work emotionally. Tom Cruise is supposed to be saying goodbye to people, but the only person he says goodbye to is the Luther character, who's one of the remaining holdovers from the original Mission Impossible in 1996. You have a bunch of callbacks. You have the son of the John Voight character from 1996, Simon Pegg, who's been there pretty consistently. But other than that, all the characters are kind of new. Gabriel's entire mission is bizarre and doesn't really make any sense. Also, Ethan Hunt wants to full-on capture or destroy the AI as opposed to giving his information over to the American government to take control over the AI, because his idea is that no one can be trusted with the AI. It must be destroyed. Although in the end it isn't destroyed, he retains control of the AI. So apparently the only person on planet Earth who can be trusted with the AI is Ethan Hunt, which is weird because we learned that President Kamala Harris in this movie, that she actually could have been trusted with the AI. She actually is a really good and kindly-hearted leader who does not lead off nuclear annihilation.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence.
The reality is that all of this plot is just an excuse for Tom Cruise to do kind of cool and interesting stunts. This involves running around a lot. So Tom Cruise is very famous for running. He is now 62. He's still very good at running on film. He's been doing this for, 40 years at this point. So he's still good at running on film. There's some bizarre scenes where he's running where a car definitely would have been helpful. There's one point where he chases a plane and doesn't catch that plane, but he does catch the undercarriage of the next plane, so that's convenient. There are a bunch of scenes in which Tom Cruise does the impossible, like he actually deliberately kills himself to come back from the dead twice in this movie. And there's one point where he fakes having taken a cyanide pill so that they unlock him as he's dying on the floor to I guess, perform some sort of CPR on him or save him. I'm not sure why that would require him to be unlocked in the hands and feet, but it does, and then he kills everyone. So there's that. We'll get to more on this in just one moment. First, folks, creditors profit from your debt. They benefit when you are trapped in high interest payments. That's how they make their money. They want you drowning in student loans, medical debt, credit card debt, expensive mortgages, because financial strain makes you easier to control. It's time to take back control and fight back, and this is where PDS Debt comes in. PDS Debt understands your financial situation is unique. They look beyond just numbers to create a personalized plan specifically for you. There's no minimum credit score required to get help. Their goal is to help you save more, pay off debt faster, put money back where it belongs, in your pocket. Their reputation speaks for itself. PDS Debt maintains an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and a perfect 5-star rating on Trustpilot. They've successfully helped hundreds of thousands of people break free from debt and regain their financial independence. And I know people who have gotten behind that debt 8 ball. It is brutal. It can ruin your life, but you are 30 seconds away from beginning the process of being debt-free. Get your free assessment and find the best option for you right now at pdsdebt.com/Shapiro. That's pdsdebt.com/Shapiro, pdsdebt.com/Shapiro. Start your process of becoming debt-free today. Head on over to pdsdebt.com/Shapiro. And then there's another part where he deliberately goes down several thousand feet to the bottom of the ocean. And this is described in excruciating detail by his team, who explain that he's going to have to go all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. He's going to get the bends coming up, so it's going to really hurt. Then he's not going to make it up in time before he runs out of air and dies. But don't worry, he's really cold, so he goes into sort of suspended state of animation. And then he will be able to float up underneath the ice cap, at which point people will drill him out using chainsaws and take him out and put him in a decompression chamber, and he'll be fine. And we are told in great detail how hard this is going to be. And the minute they spell it out, you know it's going to work, because this is Mission Impossible. And this is kind of the problem. The stakes of the movie feel so nothing that every step feels like more nothing. And part of that is because there's no real villain in the film. Like, Gabriel is just not a particularly inspiring or interesting villain. His motivation is like, okay, so he wants power, but he's not particularly good at it, apparently. And he's already been defeated in the last movie, but he's still back as the big baddie. The big baddie is just bad things happening, right? The problem with the Entity as a big baddie is it's just bad stuff happening, which is wildly uninteresting, because if you actually want to have an interesting villain in a film, that villain has to have at least a colorable rationale for doing what they are doing. Right? The best villains in film consistently have a colorable rationale, something interesting that they are trying to get done, and at least you can see their point, even if it turns out that they're morally wrong. Darth Vader has kind of an interesting morality, right? He wants Luke to team up with him so that they can rule the galaxy together as father and son, right? Like that's actually kind of an interesting motivation. Palpatine, his belief is that only he can run things because the Republic is a giant failed enterprise. If you go outside the Star Wars universe to other great villains, take, say, Alan Rickman's character in Die Hard. His whole thing is that he's masquerading as a political terrorist when in reality, he's just an extremely clever bank robber. And that's cool, like that's interesting. What is the AI's motivation? Why do I care? Why is it interesting? Do I really think at the end of this movie, all of humanity is gonna be obliterated? See, the problem is when the stakes are that big, you know it's not going to happen. They're not going to end this movie with literally every human on Earth being nuked. It's never gonna happen. If you're gonna do a plot, the plot has to have some sort of boundaries. Otherwise, you as the viewer are like, okay, I know it's not gonna happen. It's just a question of how we get to point A to point B. The other final sort of major stunt piece is Gabriel, for some unspecified reason, he has the virus, but he doesn't have the Podkova. Tom Cruise at this point, Ethan Hunt, has the Podkova. Now, Gabriel, in order to capture the AI, needs both those things. For some reason, he is running away from Tom Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt. I don't understand why. This makes no sense to me. Why isn't he trying to get the Podkova? And apparently also trying to like destroy his plane at one point, which seems like a bad way of getting the thing that Ethan Hunt is holding. This does in fact lead to maybe the only truly funny moment of the movie, which maybe was not meant to be funny, but actually is super funny. There's one point where Esai Morales, and you know Gabriel is the villain. The way you can always tell a villain in a movie, I've told my kids this, they're constantly laughing. And so Gabriel is constantly doing laughter. He's like, this is great, flying around in my crappy biplane and your crappy biplane, ha ha ha. Anyway, there's a point where he's laughing, he's like, only I have a parachute, ha ha. Well, it turns out not only is he wrong, he's wrong by like a factor of 3. He has a parachute, but immediately upon him being jettisoned from the plane, he bangs his head directly on the rudder of the plane and it kills him. And that's really funny, actually. Like that's laugh out loud hilarious, because he's like, haha, only I have a parachute, clunk. The whole thing is so strained. It's just wildly strained. Even the very end, they got what they want. Ethan Hunt has the magic MacGuffin, and he's going to, go off into the sunset. He meets up with his team, and they all kind of look at each other, and then they wander away, and you're like, you don't go for a drink at all? Like, you don't hang out? Like, I don't understand. Are you still a secret group? Why are you secret? Who's the bad guy? Overall, an uninspiring outing. I was not inspired by any of it. The geopolitics don't make sense. Plot does not make sense. The characters don't make a hell of a lot of sense. It basically just relies on Ethan Hunt being a superhero. Okay, fine. If he's a superhero, fine. But that takes away kind of all the suspense of the thing. At no point during this movie do you think he's going to die. You really don't think any of the characters you care about, except for Luther, are gonna die. And it's set up pretty early on Luther is going to die because he's obviously very ill. The movie's really long. It was like 2 hours and 40 minutes, something like that, without the credits. I assume it's the last of the Mission Impossible movies, although who knows? Because now they're making Top Gun 3, is my understanding. Listen, I'll watch again. I'll watch anything Tom Cruise is in, but was not a huge fan. 2.5, 2 stars out of 4, maybe.